So this is your fifth attempt. Okay. And what happened to your earlier four attempts? How many times did you attend an interview?
So this is my second time.
So and what happened to your first interview?
Yeah, first interview I gave in 2016 and I scored 160 marks.
160. Yes. And medical science has always been your option.
Yes, sir.
So I've never given up on that.
No, sir.
Okay. So in 2016 when you got 160 marks, you had less marks in interview or in your options?
No, I had in options I had 285 and in interview I had 160.
So which is equally bad as far as both are concerned. Okay. Acha, you've been trained as a doctor. Have you gone in for any specialization? Have you done an MD after that?
Sir, recently I have given the NEET PG exam, for which
are you enrolled as of now?
The result is awaited and it will come on 31st January.
Okay. So you are a trained doctor and you've been trained from one of the best public colleges in India. So why are you interested in doing civil services?
So of course I have been trained in medical sciences and through this also I can contribute a lot. But I got inspiration from various seniors who got into services and their
Who are doctors?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So their work when they came to our college. So after listening to their talk and the kind of work and opportunity which is being provided by the services, we got inspired. So we chose to give this.
So it's just a matter of inspiration. उसके अलावा कुछ भी नहीं.
No, sir. Along with that, there are various opportunities and the scale on which a person can work through the civil services. It's very vast, and so it is the driving force to come to the services.
But equally in a country like India, which has much less number of trained medicals, it's equally important to be a doctor.
Yes, sir. Of course, there is a lack of doctors, but there is.
So just tell me one thing. Is there anything specific? What's the sequence of your preferences for your services?
So it's Indian Administrative Services and then Indian Police Services.
Indian Administrative and Indian Police Service. Of all things on earth. Wonderful. Okay. So let's focus on the first one. That's the Indian Administrative Service. Okay. As a doctor, what exactly is it that you identify as far as the Indian Administrative Services is concerned when you think you have a contribution to make and you would like to make a contribution? So is there anything specific about the Indian Administrative Services where you feel that yes, this is something that I would really like to do?
As an IS officer?
Yeah.
So as an IS officer, I think the social determinants of health on which an IS officer can work, this can help in solving the root cause of various health diseases such as tuberculosis or malaria or diarrhea or pneumonia. So by working on the social indicators such as providing adequate sanitation, drinking water facilities and other facilities, so we can eradicate the root cause of these problems. So
why are people not doing it?
So it's not that they are not doing, but more efforts are required, and I think we'll surely achieve the target, sir.
But do you think efforts being made by IS officers would make a difference to this? Especially in a situation wherein governments, both at the level of the center as well as at the states, have such a poor view of something called as health through the public sector that if you look at the budgets, if you look at the allocations, they're so paltry. So even if you are determined to do something, where do you get the resources for doing it?
So I think it is not only IS who can solve this problem. Everyone should work first of all. And second thing is the resources on health are poor. Of course, that is taken. But the resources which are spent on education or other sanitation sectors, these are adequate. We need to spend it adequately and at in the right direction and at right places. So I think there is rather lack of will rather than lack of resources, which is preventing to achieve the target. If we take into consideration the poor countries such as Bangladesh or some of the African nations also, they have done very well in health sector despite being very poor. So I think
poor का सवाल नहीं है. This is not a question of being poor. Yes, they are poor, and on account of the fact that given the fact that they are poor, the amount of resources that they can marshal are also less, no doubt about that. But those are adequate for countries which are sized. At the end of the day, it's also a question of size. So if you look at the amount of resources that Bangladesh garners for health as a proportion of its population in terms of per capita expenditure, it's quite robust. Whereas the fundamental problem that we have in India is for the size of the population that we have a much paltry outlay. Okay,
Yes.
so resources is a definite issue here, and even if you are well intentioned and have the will for doing so, if you are not backed by substantial resources, there's no way by which this can be done. Huh? You come from a state wherein you have so many well-meaning people who have worked in medicine, who have not been in administration, and who are responsible for creating a certain sort of public awareness regarding the fact that you need adequate resources for this. Is there anything that plagues that haunts your mind, that plagues the Indian medical sector, especially the Indian public health sector?
Yes, sir. I think in Indian public sector we have a lot of focus on tertiary care rather than primary care and preventive care. So this balance is creating problem in addressing the medical issues such as non-communicable diseases and the rising problems such as antibiotic resistance and other diseases or mental health problems. So there is lack of focus on this sector and excessive focus on tertiary healthcare sector. So this is the, I think, major problem in India and Indian health sector. Sir.
How would you look at a vice chancellor of a public university attending science congress and talking about how we had test tube babies in pre-modern India, and all of this in front of six Nobel laureates? So, as someone who has been trained in medicine, how would you look at all of this?
So I think it would not be appropriate to comment on to make such claims at such a very high level institution because it doesn't go down well. It doesn't go down well to the people who are present in the conference, and it shows that there is lack of scientific attitude and basically.
So, why is this happening? Because this is not the first time that this has happened. This has happened over the last 5 years so many number of times. So why is this happening? Why is this persistently happening?
So there may be some strong belief among some sections of society that such scientific innovations were present during that time, and we are moving more towards modern sciences and leaving back our ancient traditional knowledge. So maybe in
So an apprehension of that type is responsible for it.
maybe that may be one of the reasons.
Okay. But it's unfounded, it's unscientific.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I don't know as to what do you do with it. There is a certain controversy about vending of pharmaceuticals online. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
So what is the entire problem all about?
So the entire so basically many pharmaceutical companies are providing online medications, and they are claiming that it will help in serving the patients better, mainly those who are disabled and elderly who cannot go to the medical store and buy this. So they will provide good services, but there is an apprehension that it will lead to excessive and overuse of medications or unnecessary use of medications, which may also add on to the burden like antimicrobial resistance or abuse of some of the medications.
So what is the best way out?
Yes, sir. I think, sir, the best way out can be proper regulation of this sector, and the medication should be prescribed only after getting the prescription from registered medical doctors. So if this is put in place, so we can all.
Is it possible to do so?
Yes, sir. Of course, it is possible.
So it is possible that if you have a proper medication, if you have a proper prescription, uh, there is no issue in terms of selling it online.
No, there are some issues. There should be some guidelines. There should be some scheduled drugs which only can be prescribed, and other things can be given only after the proper prescription from doctors and after taking it. But some of the medications surely we can provide on online,
Like,
like anti-diabetic drugs, antihypertensive drugs, or some of the instruments which are needed for elderly disabled patients. So we can provide those drugs such as sanitary napkins.
sanitary napkins.
For
One can understand that, but drugs which are related, which cure you of mental problems. Huh? As you said, like antidepressants, stress busting drugs. Do you think there's a case to be made about selling them online?
Yes, sir. That's what I was telling about the guidelines and the schedules under which this drugs comes, and this schedule can be regulated that we can avoid selling such drugs online without medical prescription or without the consent of doctor. So in that line, we can have a larger discussion on this issue, and then we can properly regulate this market. But banning it and cannot be a way forward.
It's possible, it can be done. Okay, what is the last non-fiction book which you have read?
So recently I had read Why I'm a Hindu, and along with that I was also reading some fiction book also, One Part Woman by PUNE, which was recently
Completed reading it.
no sad, still reading.
Reading it. And I am in English, what you have completed reading.
The both I'm doing.
It's a process of reading.
Yeah,
So
the
complete
completed
concept.
book, yes, the completed book which I read was Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari and the Homo Deus. The same, right?
So what did you gain out of that?
So, of course, through Sapiens, I came to know about the whole anthropological history of human beings and how we went on to form a bigger civilization on this earth. So this was the basic theme of the Sapiens book, and he spoke about three revolutions which happened to Homo sapiens, which helped them to expand and form a civilization compared to other species.
Like,
So first was about the language which we were able to develop due to some genetic mutation. Second thing was about innovative thinking, which helped us create religion, money, which was able to build trust among people. And third thing, he was able to say that we were able to gossip, and gossiping is important. One of the important feature which we developed, which helped in building trust among people. So which is very important for having a community as a whole and functioning together.
gossip.
Yes, sir. That we could gossip and we could find out what is wrong, or we could build trust among ourselves. So this was his basic.
I agree with that.
To some extent, if we start observing society around, most of the time we discuss about some professional things, and later on we socialize and we start try to build trust through discussing our personal issues. And if we observe it keenly, then I think it is true to some extent.
If I say there is no such thing called a superstition, my superstition, or what someone would see as a superstition, is at the end of the day nothing but my strong belief. It appears to be a superstition to somebody else. How would you react to that?
So I think, sir, everybody has the right to hold one's own views. But I think if suppose if we hold one view, and if there is scientific proof that the view which we are holding is inappropriate, and if one person is ready to change it, then I don't consider it as a superstition. It is just a faith. It is a matter of faith, and the person is having it, and he is ready to change. But even after having scientific knowledge, and if one person is not ready to change and is still believing that it is due to some supernatural forces, then I think it is superstition, and the person is having the right to hold that view. But I will disagree with that.
So, what is important in this transaction is that I have scientific knowledge. So who decides what is scientific knowledge?
So, of course, it is based on the various research data and various analysis, theories, hypotheses put forward, and based on that, we come to the conclusion that this is the most perfect theory at present. There can be
Why
other.
should I believe somebody else telling me this?
Yes, of course, sir. You have all the right to disagree, but this is one of the viewpoint that this have a scientific basis or data to prove that the particular thing or particular belief, your belief may be superstitious or it may not have any scientific basis.
How would you look at a situation wherein your pursuit of science is something that troubles people, irks people, breaks these bonds of trust which they have developed between themselves and with the idea that they strongly believe in. And this results in some sort of violence.
So I think, sir, to present one's view is very important. That freedom is provided by the constitution, and as part, if someone's feelings are hurted, they of course have the right to protest, but they don't have the right to take law into their own hand. At that point, sir, the law should, all the administration should take care that there is no violence and there is no, and everyone has right to express their views freely.
So who killed Dr. Lavota?
So I think the case is sub judice and there is investigation still going on. So there is no. They have
So the very fact that the investigation doesn't reach its logical conclusion, and there is no way by which it seems that the investigating agencies are interested in reaching closure. So as someone who are you yet affiliated to the organization?
So since I'm in Delhi, I have not been affiliated completely.
So not with the activities, but with what the organization believes and pursues. You are affiliated to that or
Yes.
not affiliated to it?
Yes, I'm affiliated to that. The thought process and the thinking of that.
So in that case, uh, doesn't this seem to be a highly problematic thing that after everything that is said and done, we yet don't have any closure on this? So
Yes.
why is there no closure?
So I think the murder was conducted very
The way in which it left no clues.
it left no clues. But still, I think the Pune police, the way in which they conducted investigation, like they tracked 1 lakh phone calls, and they are trying to coordinate with other state police of of Karnataka and Goa. So I think we'll surely reach to some conclusion very early. But I think we should not lose hope.
What sort of a periodical was Mukta Chandra?
So it was monthly periodical, and it was started by a few students of our college also. And
Is it yet going on?
no, sir, at present it is not.
You have stopped it.
Yes.
Okay. Your dad says that your father is involved in some sort of business.
Yes.
So what is the business?
So it is of real estate, sir.
It's a family business.
Yes.
And this is in Bede itself.
Yes, sir. In Bede, Aurangabad, and Pune.
Bede, Aurangabad and Pune. All places at one and the same time.
Yes.
And did the coming in of GST in any way affect this business, or is it going on as it was at that point of time before GST came in?
No, so the business was a bit slowed down also because of demonetization and the GST as well, sir.
Okay. It's a family business,
Yes, sir.
so it has been going on for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I'm to ask you, like, Bede is not exactly speaking Tier 1 place.
Yes, sir.
It's not even a Tier 2 place for that matter of fact. One would say that as far as real estate is concerned, Pune happens to be a Tier 1 place, Aurangabad possibly is a Tier 2 place, and Bede possibly is a Tier 3 place. What in your opinion are the challenges as far as the real estate sector is concerned in each of these three different places? So if you can like briefly highlight as to these are problems in Tier 1 places, Tier 2 places, and Tier 3 places. Just give me one example in each of these cases.
Yes. Sir, if we start with Tier 1 in Pune, there are various municipal regulations, and to comply with this regulation becomes a tough task. And of course, the new the real estate regulatory authority and the bill which has been brought to comply with this was a bit difficult in the initial stages.
Has Maharashtra finally established its RERA authority?
Yes,
Has it been constituted entirely?
so I have a clear idea about whether it is constructed entirely.
Okay. So in tier 1 places, there is a municipal problem, there is a municipal regulation problem. Tier 2 places,
So in tier 2, there is a bit issue about demand of the housing, which is very poor at present. And in the tier 3, in the Beat district, there is issue of water, and there are strict regulations that water will not be available for construction purposes. So because of that also, and also the demand in tier 3 cities is also less because of distressed agriculture and other problems.
so how many units does this your family has a firm?
No, means there's no as such firm established. It's going on means personal basis.
So do they does your father work with units which are already constructed, or is he involved in commissioning the construction of units?
Commissioning and construction.
Okay. So in a place like Beed, how many units do they end up commissioning every year?
So exact figure it depends on.
Yes, work before demonetization and after demonetization.
So before demonetization it was like 30 flats used to construct.
Okay.
Later on used to like 10 or.
So it's quite a drastic fall. Huge. So why do you think has this sort of a situation come around to pass? In a country like India, with the sort of working class population which you have, with an economy which is largely informal, you should actually have a roaring real estate sector. So, as you said, one is demonetization, second is GST. But then, are there any other reasons for the same?
Yes, most important other reason which is being discussed was like the rising prices of land, and
So, it's a regulated market.
means, the cost is very rising tremendously of land, so it increases the price of the flat. So in that case, there is a depressed demand from the customers.
So, no amount of smart city thing is going to work. So, we are talking about Beed City. Okay, that is where you are located. Okay. How big is this place in terms of its population?
So there is proper Beat city, 5 lakh people approximately
Okay.
population.
Okay. And what is its water supply source?
So water supply, there are two dams. One is Bindusara Dam, through which we get water supply, and the second one is the Jaikwadi Dam, which is in Pedal. So through that, the backwaters we get the water supply.
Okay. This place has a municipal council or municipal corporation?
Municipal council.
Council. How many councillors?
So it's 50 councils.
5 series. Okay. And who's the? It should have a chairman to the council. So who's the chairman as of now?
So as of now, Bharat Bhushan Sirsala is the chairman.
Okay. And what party does he belong to?
He belongs to National Congress Party.
You kept another battery for Thursday.
Okay. And how many
It's like doing
legislative assembly segments does this place have?
One sir.
Single one. Okay. And who represents it in the assembly?
Jaidat Sirsala.
And the two are connected to each other.
Yes, they are family.
Okay. Horrible. It's a nepotistic place. If I'm an outsider to Beed, I've never been to Beed, and if I am ever supposed to come down to Beed, so what would you suggest me? Like, what exactly would you suggest a complete outsider in terms of this sort of a place? So if you're supposed to run a travel advisory, so what are the 5 things that you would put into it?
So, but for what purpose?
I'm traveling to this place for the first time. So I'm just traveling. I'm a casual traveler. So what sort of a travel advisory would you generate?
So, travel advisory related to food, related to
Okay.
staying place, and
Okay.
if you want to
So
visit.
what would you put into all of this? So in terms of food, what would be your advisement?
So, of course, there are some good restaurants which are being run in big city. So, where we can get.
Okay, so what it essentially means is eat at the restaurants, don't go in for street food.
Yes.
Okay. Next,
Next is related to staying facilities.
that one would be
Depending on the location where we want to go, so various lodging places are also available there.
okay. So there are no homestays.
At present, that culture has not been.
Okay. The third thing is about places that I would visit.
Yes.
So what are the places you would suggest?
So there is one Kaleshwar temple is also there, and there is also some Khazana Baudi, which is the ancient well which was dug during Mughal times, and it is continuously means 24/7. The water doesn't in all seasons water is present there. So that is also one of the unique places which you can visit there. So
Okay, that's the third. Fourth one.
Fourth one is related to, you can say, about the industrial area or small MIDCs there. So if one want to visit and to see which all small scale industries run there, so we can go there as well.
Okay, Dr. Shrenik, tell me one thing. You did start it off, but I just want to get some more clarity on it. There is something called as the Jan Arogya Yojana, which is presently going on. Okay, and it's been talked about all across the place. Now, you did begin by saying that we are focusing a lot on tertiary care and primary and secondary care are not adequately taken care of. And Jan Arogya Yojana essentially is about secondary and tertiary care. Okay, so someone who has been practicing medicine, who has seen it at close quarters. Did you intern as part of your medicine, the degree that you obtained? Where did you intern?
In Sassoon Hospital.
So in Pune city itself. You never had a rural internship?
No, sir.
Okay.
It was 1 month internship. It was in near Shurur.
In a village?
It was 60 kilometers, not village per se. It was Taluk.
Okay, okay. So, getting back to it. So, we have a problem on our hands. So, the scheme per se provides for secondary and tertiary care. There's not much in terms of primary care except for vague promises that are supposed to happen and materialize in the future. Okay, so as someone who has been a practicing medico for this long a period of time, is there anything else that you find troublesome as far as the entire scheme is concerned?
One thing was about the insurance model which we are depending upon for providing the tertiary healthcare. There are various problems about its sustainability in future, and also the problem of excessive treatment and excessive investigation, which may come into play, which was observed in other countries as well. So this is one of the
one thing that the government has been doing for a long time is most of the talk around the Jan Arogya Yojana is sort of structured around the number of beneficiaries of the scheme till now, ever since it has been launched, and the amount of money which has been disbursed. Are these the two right metrics by which one can assess a scheme like this?
I think, sir, this cannot be the only two metrics on which we can access. Of course, there is a need to provide adequate funding to run the scheme, but we need to see whether the real beneficiaries are benefiting from it, and are we able to provide sustainable healthcare to all the people of the country, or universal healthcare? Are we moving one step forward in this direction? So, and we should of course have objectable parameters regarding IMR, MMR, and other health problems like cancer, people suffering from cancer, and how this scheme is able to solve these problems. So these objective parameters should be designed and set in place so that we can assess whether.
Well, it doesn't seem things are in place, because if the Union Finance Minister cannot find a better place in India itself, located where he is in the capital, to simply undergo a medical checkup, this talks volumes about the fact that if he has to fly out of the country merely for a medical checkup to ascertain whether a specific medical condition has developed in his case, it speaks volumes, or doesn't it?
Yes, sir, but I think it is a personal matter, a personal choice to where the person should get.
That's fine. Nobody's denying that.
It is related to expertise and the previously where the person took the treatment. So our health minister was treated previously in US. So maybe that may be one of the factors that he had to fly out to US to have a regular checkup, because the doctors are well aware about his situation.
Okay, tell me one thing. This is, as you said, your fifth attempt. Now, if you don't get selected in this, What is it that you intend to do in the future?
So hopefully I would get selected. But if I do not, I have a second plan B, for which I have given my next NEET PG exam for post graduation. So I would surely get back into the medical field, and I would try to continue with the practice.
What does the name SHRENIK?
So this name SHRENIK means organized, well organized. So it came from the word Shreni, which means organization. So,
Shreni.
yes.
Okay. 10 years down the line, you are asked to point out 3 challenges where the public health is concerned, public health in India is concerned. What
In future.
Yeah, 10 years down the line.
So
10 years.
the most important problem I think would be the non-communicable diseases, which we should address. The second would be mental health care. And third would be the antibiotic resistance, which is quite spreading fast. So this would be the 3 major problems I think which would arise in the next 10 years.
Okay. So if at all we think of going for right to health, so what kind of challenges do you perceive?
So I think to achieve a right to health, there are challenges like first of all is of funding, and the proper funding should be required. Second thing is about human resources. At present, we have very less numbers of doctors and paramedical staff as well. And the third thing would be about the proper infrastructure, which is the primary health centers and tertiary health centers. So that should be adequately placed, and it should be adequately provided with all the basic facilities which should be present. So on this 3 front, I think this would be the 3 challenges which we need to put in place.
But if you look at the presence of private players in the domain, so what is the possibility of government going for the same initiative? Is right to health?
So of course, 60 to 70% of people in India rely on private healthcare sectors, of course, and they they will be an important part in achieving our health for all initiative, or right to health for all. But there needs to be adequate regulatory mechanism so that proper quality of healthcare is provided to the people, and there is no untoward out-of-pocket expenditure, excessive out-of-pocket expenditure which should fall on the people.
How do you look at one of the recent initiatives of the central government, reservations to those who are poor from the general category, 10% reservation?
So I think the main intention of the government was to provide social justice and equality to the weaker section of society from general category. So if we look from that perspective, it is really one of the good steps which will help in achieving that target, which is mentioned in our constitution. But the important thing is about putting in place proper filters so that the real beneficiaries get the reservation quota.
I don't see anything problematic as far as.
So there are problematic issues as well, such as there may be again further demands from other communities as well to
Something in principle.
yes. The basic idea of reservation was to help the socially and educationally backward class to rise up and to provide them equality status. But there are some concerns raised that the reservation policy which the government has been bringing it violates this basic principle, which was the basic principle behind the reservation policy.
Yes, thank you, SHRENIK. Thank you.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from the Unique Academy. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned.